Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show podcast, coming to you from right here in our quaint little studio. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea, and it is an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, our international friends, gather around as we talk about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news, TV and streaming, and all sorts of good stuff. Not just giving you our opinions, but hopefully giving you some information and context so you guys can form your own well-informed opinions, whether they're the same or even different than ours. Joining me in studio today, we got Ray Ora.
Happy Friday.
The delightful Chris Carr's here on Fridays.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Jonathan Voico has the day off, so any technical problems will be my fault today because I'm going to try to run the show and host the show at the same time. But most importantly, you guys are here. Thank you so much, guys, for being here and making today's show part of your day. Here's how it's going to go. We're going to start off by talking about a bunch of predetermined topics. Then in the second part of the show, we're going to take your live comments and questions. If you got a thought, theory, opinion, or question you'd like us to address, as long as it's appropriate for us to address, you can use our tip link that you'll find down in the description of this video, or go to it manually simply at www.streamelements.com/JohnCampea/tip. Here's the great thing about this tip link. You don't have to wait until the show is live to submit a question if you don't want to. If you have a thought or an idea at 2 o'clock in the morning, go ahead, use the tip link and fire it in, and we'll get around to it on the next show. All right, guys. With all that down, let's get things started here, shall we? And we're going to start with this. You know, I love Knives Out. Absolutely adored it. I loved Glass Onion pretty much equally as much. And we've been waiting for the announcement of the third film, and now the third film announced has happened. This comes from the folks over at Variety. Knives Out 3, title revealed as Wake Up Dead Man. That's going to be the name of Knives Out 3. Rian Johnson confirms a 2025 release, so it's going to come out next year. Variety wrote the following. Benoit Blanc is back to solve another mystery in Rian Johnson's third Knives Out film titled Wake Up Dead Man. Johnson announced the title along with the 2025 release date in a teaser posted to Twitter on Friday morning. And then you had this little video and you just hear Daniel Craig's voice saying, "In the beginning, the knives came out. Then behold, the glass was shattered. But my most dangerous case yet is about to be revealed," narrates Daniel Craig in the 45-second video, referencing the first two titles of the murder mystery franchise in 2019's Knives Out and 2022's Glass Onion. Now, here's another really interesting tidbit about this. Although it's coming out next year, so we should know this, but one of the things Rian Johnson said on social media was that he's about to go into production, which means they've probably got their cast. One of the coolest things about these Knives Out films is the wild ensemble cast that he's able to bring together. How good was Chris Evans in the first one? How good? Well, everybody.
Everyone's great, but it's so nice to see Chris Evans being just a shitbag.
Yeah, being a little bit of a
So
dirtbag, like
good,
going back to
yeah.
maybe his younger career a little bit.
It gave a lot of not another teen movie vibes.
Yeah. In all the good and bad ways.
In all those ways,
In all
yeah.
those ways it did that.
I hated that movie.
It's terrible, but fun.
But it's there. We've all heard of it. But I'll tell you what, listen, I adore these movies. I'm a real murder mystery buff. And obviously Rian Johnson is too. And what he's been able to do with this Knives Out franchise has been really wonderful. And I'm loving what I'm seeing. Anyway, Chris, you hear about this news. What is it called? Wake Up Dead Man?
This is Wake Up Dead Man, which in theory, Entertainment Weekly was talking about this, is a reference to a U2 song. So all of the titles have been taken from songs, right? Knives Out.
That's right.
That references Radiohead. With Glass Onion, we were referencing the Beatles. So U2's song, Wake Up Dead Man, might hold a key to what this plot really involves, being the most deadly case he's ever had so far, which is very exciting. I'm really, really pumped. I love these movies. I also love Rian Johnson. I know that not everyone loves it, but I'm a big fan of Last Jedi. I really adore it. Brick is an incredible movie.
Oh, Brick is so good.
He's so great. Poker Face was a phenomenal first season. I'm so excited he's working on
Got a
season
lot
2
of
that.
Emmy attention. Poker Face did, yeah.
I love his stuff, and I love when he works within this noir kind of world. I think it works really well for his style and aesthetic, and I can't wait to see what else he does. And I love Benoit Blanc. I know I always talk about the Muppets, but I also the other day someone said the next live action Muppet movie should be with Benoit Blanc and Daniel Craig should be himself.
Oh my God.
And I would love nothing more.
I would also want to throw out there, because you mentioned Looper. Mm-hmm. or you mentioned Brick.
Brick, but
I
Looper.
would like to throw it there, Looper.
That
I
movie's
loved
fabulous.
Looper. And you know, it's so funny. It just goes again to kind of show the fickleness, I think, of a lot of the audience, because like before The Last Jedi, everybody, that's hyperbole. Admittedly, it's hyperbole, but basically using hyperbole, everybody acknowledged Rian Johnson's a great director.
Yeah.
Everybody loved Rian Johnson. And he did, you know, of course, then he did Knives Out, Glass Onion. But if you're somebody who didn't like The Last Jedi, which I'm in the middle of, there are things about The Last Jedi I hated, things about The Last Jedi I really loved.
Sure.
But it's like, if you're somebody who didn't like The Last Jedi, Rian Johnson sucks. Don't let Rian Johnson near anything. Rian Johnson is an Academy Award level filmmaker. And what's that?
And that's why the people like that should probably blame themselves when Star Wars can't get big directors. They scare them away. They scare them. You guys are scaring them away.
Yeah.
Just one film shouldn't ruin a person's
Everyone
career.
gets to have a bad day at the office.
Who's the director again of half of Tom Cruise movies, The Mission Impossible? Christopher McQuarrie.
Yes.
Like Christopher McQuarrie is just one example, and I can't remember which one, but one of the three Amigo directors, not Del Toro, but I can't remember which one. But Christopher McQuarrie and one of those Academy Award-winning directors, like basically came out and said, "Oh, I'll never do a Star Wars movie." Like, no way. Look at that fandom. I don't want to have anything to do with them.
Yeah.
Like, sort of thing. So it's kind of about, anyway, we are here to talk about Wake Up Dead Man, which I'm so excited about. I'm so excited that's coming out as early as next year. Hopefully, fingers crossed, Netflix gets a little smarter and they give it a little bit more of a theatrical release than they did
Seriously.
for Glass Onion. Because remember, they gave like a very short, very limited theatrical release to Glass Onion. I think it was more of a dip in their toe in the water.
Yeah.
And just with this tiny little test they did, it pulled in $13 million.
Well, when that first one brought in over 300,
Yes, it
they
did.
left so much money on the table.
So I really hope they give this thing a little bit of a theatrical release. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? Rian Johnson has announced that the next Knives Out movie, Wake Up Dead Man, is going into production here really soon and is coming out next year. I'm sure, going to talk a lot in the upcoming weeks and months about who's going to be in the movie and all that kind of stuff. But whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. That down. Let's move on to this, shall we? I've mentioned before, I grew up a big Garfield fan. I used to read, I get all the books when they would come, the collection of the comic strips come out. I got all that kind of stuff. The movie iterations of Garfield have been, let's say, no, not great. The movie iterations of Garfield haven't been great per se, but they had this new one coming out. I had no idea why they were making this new one. No kids today know who Garfield is, at least for the most part. They got Chris Pratt that's going to be voicing it. That's at least a little bit interesting. But tickets started selling out in some advanced screenings and stuff. So I thought, okay, maybe we're in for something. So we went to go see Garfield yesterday. Me and Ray and Anne went to go see Garfield yesterday. And I'm going to go with this tomato meter rating of 37%. It's not good. It's not good.
So you're going to go on that side of the road.
Yeah, Ray is going to be offering a different perspective on this in a minute.
I'm on the 84%
Now,
side.
we'll get to the good
Okay.
stuff here in a second.
Okay.
But I mean, I wanted to like this. I mean, because I love Garfield, right? Even though I'm not a cat guy at all, but I do love Garfield, and obviously I'm a big Chris Pratt fan. So I wanted to like it. I didn't think I would, but I wanted to. And the first thing I got to say about this Garfield movie is it doesn't even feel like a Garfield movie. Like, nothing about this movie felt like a Garfield movie. It felt like some random animated adventure film that we just so happened to take this character Garfield and drop him in it. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's definitely some Garfieldisms. There's definitely some Garfieldisms in the film, but it didn't actually like feel like a Garfield film to me. But be that as it may, whatever. Let me say some good stuff about it first. It absolutely has its moments. I mean, there are at least a couple of moments. I'm going to spoil one joke in the film, okay? You guys all right with that? If I spoil something, one joke from the Garfield movie?
We're used to it.
There's this one great line where they've literally got a dead roadkill possum. And they got this possum, this dead roadkill, and it's like, Garfield, this thing's dead. And another character, I won't give it away, another character's like, no, it's a possum. They act. It's just whatever. And then Garfield says, well, Daniel Day Possum here is doing a pretty good job. And I like, number one, no kid in the world is going to get that joke, but I appreciated the joke. I thought that was pretty funny. And listen, there are moments, and there's some very manufactured, forced, cute moments, but I'd be lying if I told you that some of them didn't work, because some of them really did work. There's some very cute moments, some very adorable moments, a couple of laughs. So I'm not going to say this movie's a train wreck. I don't think the movie's a train wreck. But overall, I was telling Chris about this. When we were in the theater yesterday, literally there were only 3 other people in the theater. It was me, Anne, and Ray, and I came in just as the trailers were ending, and there was only 3 other people, a couple with their little kid. That was it. And as we were getting into the third act, and as we're moving along the third act, the little kid said out loud to his parents, "Is the movie over?" And I turned to Anne, and I said, "I've been asking myself that for the last 20 minutes. It's just..."
But you didn't see he was crying because he didn't want it to be over.
Because please don't say it's over. I need more. I mean, it's just most of the jokes didn't work. It didn't actually feel like Garfield. Even a lot of times when they were using very standard Garfield jokes, whether it's about Mondays or lasagna, most of them didn't work at all. It could have been a better movie. It should have been a better movie. Not awful. Not an awful movie, but I didn't really dig it. Now, Ray had a different reaction to the film.
But see, your background with Garfield is a lot more hardcore than I am. Mine was only the back pages of the Sunday comics. Just 4 panels.
Which is where all the books came from, right?
And from what I know of Garfield, I believe, everything's there. Like, the core aspects of Garfield. Like, with me and him, we like to eat food. We both like to sleep. We both have the same face when we open up the fridge and it's stacked with food.
Ray is Garfield.
And it's stacked with food. We both don't like to leave the house, right?
That's true.
And it's like, every now and then I'm grumpy too, which is Garfield's main thing. He's grumpy.
And
He's
you're a
grumpy
Bengals
kid.
fan, so you're gonna orange a lot.
So, but I love the aspect of seeing him outside of the house. And like, whenever I decide to go out, I like to have fun, like no matter what we're doing, no matter what. And that's what I had. I left this movie thinking about all the good stuff about it more than the bad stuff. I mean, it's not a Garfield movie. Like, if the grumpiness and stuff, there's not a lot of that. But there was enough Garfield for me for the movie to work. And I left smiling. I kept talking about all the funny parts afterwards. And that's, I think, the point of this movie. If you leave smiling and have, just had a good time, there's no thinking caps involved.
I agree.
Movie,
I just didn't leave smiling.
Yeah. I left smiling just
me.
because the last half of this movie really did it for me. And I said the trailer jokes, I didn't laugh at any of them, but there were a couple where seeing the line before or the situation, it actually made the joke better for me, like the ones that we seen in the trailer. So I like this movie. I don't think it's a complete train wreck. I'm on the 84% side.
You mean you're on the
audience side?
The audience side.
Yeah.
I listen. One of the things that I'll circle back around.
Oh,
this
the animation.
I brought this up.
The animation too was great.
The animation was okay. Not very detailed, but that was the style they were going for. I kind of mentioned this before, but it really begs bringing up again. I have to ask why they made this movie. Because, I grew up reading and loving Garfield. Today's generation is not. We were talking, Christy and I were talking about Mario, right? It's well, Mario, every generation plays Mario. There's new Mario every 6 weeks. Mm-hmm. The new Mario game is coming out. Kids play Mario today, all that kind of stuff, right? So when Mario comes out, you get that. But with Garfield, what kids know Garfield? Now, I'm not a parent, so I don't know for sure. But so why would you make this movie? And who did you think was going to come to it? Because if you made this movie for me, all right, but I don't think a lot of people who are my contemporaries are going to be wanting to run out to see Garfield. Like, I think this, if you've got kids or you've got a favorite niece or nephew and you want to take them to a movie, I would recommend bringing them to this. But I mean, I just don't know who was to go. So when we walked into the theater and it was like completely empty, I got to admit, I wasn't really surprised.
And that's where lies the problem with bringing back or like bringing like some of these like beloved properties to the big screen. Like Garfield, same thing with Mutant Mayhem. You're going to have that side where they're used to a certain thing being a certain way, but then they're also trying to appeal to the newer generation that may not be familiar with the property. It's a fine line that they have to walk on. So it's kind of like sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It's really hard to find a balance between the two.
Well,
but, you know what I mean?
Sorry. I'm assuming too that this will make money because I mean, what do you have in competition with it for your child audience? If
there's If, which isn't doing great.
No.
There's Furiosa, which you're not going to bring a lot of little ones to.
Do it.
Can we agree on one thing, John?
What's that?
Odie is the best.
Oh, Odie is super cute. Odie's the best character in the movie.
Oh, good. Okay.
Oh yeah, easily the best character in the movie is Odie. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? Did you go and see Garfield? If so, what did you think? Did you have any interest in seeing Garfield? Did you read Garfield as a kid? Whatever you guys think, jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? There is a new Pixar film coming out, Inside Out 2. Which, honestly, I was really surprised when they first announced that they were going to do one. I didn't think they would do a sequel to Inside Out 2, but I love the first one. Now, Pixar films have been struggling as of late, right up until Elemental, which started off really slow, but then word of mouth got out about how great the movie is and ended up making over $500 million, didn't it? Anyway, how's Inside Out going to do? Well, according to a new report coming out, real damn well, and it could be the biggest opening that Pixar's had since 2019's Toy Story 4. This comes to us from Screenwriter, who wrote the following. Per Deadline, initial projections have been calculated for the box office run of Inside Out 2. The movie is currently expected to earn, get this, a domestic opening weekend of somewhere between $80 and $85 million. To put that into perspective, I just want to remind everybody, Furiosa is projected to make under 40 on its opening weekend, right?
Okay.
So Inside Out is projected to make anywhere between $80 and $85 million in its opening weekend, in addition to landing either the 6th or 7th best opening for a Pixar movie. This total would be the best debut for a Pixar movie since Toy Story 4 in 2019. That sequel opened to $120.9 million and went on to gross $1.07 billion worldwide, becoming the company's second highest grossing release of all time. All right. So, Inside Out 2, by the way, Ray, can you double check the release date of Inside Out 2?
Inside Out 2, yeah.
But I mean, it's coming out, and they're saying the opening weekend box office is $80 million.
June 19th.
June 19th. So it's less than a month away at this point. By the way, just to remind everybody, they showed us the opening 30 minutes of Inside Out 2 at CinemaCon this year. Now, remember, they also showed us the opening 30 minutes of Lightyear.
I was going to bring that up.
And the opening 30 minutes of Lightyear were fantastic. And then we went to the movies to see the full movie, and it's like, whoa, did it drop after the first 30 minutes. So whatever. But they did show us the first 30 minutes of Inside Out 2. And in the first 2 or 3 minutes, I'm like, this is just rehashing Inside Out. And then after the first 2 or 3 minutes, I'm like, this is awesome. Guys, it's amazing. The first 30 minutes they showed us, the first 30 minutes of Inside Out, I can't talk about how good or bad the following hour and a half after that is, but the first 30 minutes of Inside Out 2 are absolutely phenomenal. They absolutely nailed it. They got the DNA of it. They got the feel of it. It just feels like you're right back there, only with now an older Riley. And I just love that she plays hockey because I'm a Canadian. So I love that, but it's absolutely phenomenal. I honestly think, despite their struggles lately, and even though, Elemental didn't ultimately make $700 or $800 million at the box office, I honestly think how good Elemental is kind of reignited the taste in people's mouths for Pixar. Because you had Lightyear, You had 3 good movies get dumped straight to Disney Plus with Soul, Luca, and a movie that should have won Best Animated Feature of the Year at the Oscars, Turning Red. So between that and then Lightyear not being so great, Elemental came out and had a very slow start, I think because of all that. But word of mouth got out about how damn good that movie is. And if you haven't seen Elemental, it's fabulous. It's not a top 3 or 4 best Pixar film of all time or anything, but it's really great. And I think that has kind of re-sparked the taste for people to want to get back out to Pixar. And now with, Inside Out 2 coming out, I think that's why they're measuring it being around $80 to $85 million. Anyway, Chris, you're hearing about all this. Where's your anticipation level been for an Inside Out 2? What did you think of the original? And do you think this could be an $80 million opening for the studio?
Oh, it for sure could. I mean, the first one won an Oscar. It was a fabulous, fabulous film that I loved. Justice for Bing Bong. Justice for Bing Bong forever. Oh, just thinking about that character makes me get all weepy. I really love that first one, and I'm cautiously optimistic about this one. The introduction of anxiety and envy, I think, will be really great, especially because we've got, Maya Hawke in there, who I think is a fabulous actress who has earned her place in Hollywood. She is, yes, one of those Nepo babies who I think deserves to
but
be
she's
in
really
films.
good.
She's an incredible actress who, if Ethan Hawke is your dad too, and Uma Thurman's your mom, you're going to have to live up to a big expectation there, right? And then Ao from Abbott Elementary, or not from Abbott Elementary, she plays the sister on Abbott Elementary, but mostly from The Bear is playing Envy on there. Which
By the way,
great.
she's blowing up.
She's huge.
Yeah.
And well-deserved again, an incredible actress. But like I've said before, the only reason why I'm a little cautious about this is I've seen Big Mouth do anxiety really, really well. I've seen Big Mouth do puberty really, really well. And that's not to say you can't tell the same story. That's what movies do constantly. We're constantly taking a new perspective on a tried and true through line, storyline, plot, what have you. But I'm just trying to make sure, and I'm getting myself prepared to go, this is Pixar. This is Pixar's take on what happens to you during puberty and your adolescence and everything. I need to go into it with that mindset, not the raunchy mindset that Big Mouth gave me, and let this stand on its own 2 feet. But I think there's a lot of promise here, and I think it could do really well.
And that's where Pixar, I think, really works for, as in movies. Like with Lightyear, the first 30 minutes, there was that human aspect, the thing that happened in the beginning where we all could relate to a loss or things like that.
Right.
And it's like Inside Out obviously deals with things that people would go through. And also Turning Red, that's why it was so good. It was dealing with something that some people could relate
With
to.
shared human experiences. That we all relate
exactly.
with.
And that's where Pixar always hits strong. That's why I'm kind of worried about Elio coming up, because that's my most anticipated Pixar movie coming up, because it's about space. But I never saw the first Inside Out, so but it feels like this would relate to a lot of people, like the things that happen in these movies.
All right, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? They're saying this movie could open really big. I mean, especially considering the landscape today, like an $80 to $85 million opening does not happen very often right now. Do you think that's good? Did you like the first Inside Out? Are you looking forward to the second one? Maybe you're not. Whatever you guys think, jump down into the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? The greatest filmmaker of all time is Steven Spielberg. I mean, of course, that's a subjective opinion, but I think that's one that's very backed up by history and facts. When you look at the career of this guy, the fact that he has done pretty much every single genre you can imagine and smashed it and either won or been nominated for Oscar awards for all of them, he's just the best. When's his next movie coming out? Well, it's coming out in 2026. And what is it? They're not telling us. This comes to us from Variety, who writes the following. Steven Spielberg has lined up his next feature film, which will be released in 2026. Universal Pictures is backing the movie, which will open in theaters on May 15th, 2026. It's unclear, so that's just 2 years. This movie's coming out in 2 years. It's unclear what the untitled project, which the studio described as a quote-unquote new original event film, is about, though Variety previously reported that Spielberg is working on a UFO story.
Yes.
All right. I'll tell you why this thrills me to no end. First of all, it's Steven Spielberg, right? It's Steven Spielberg, and it's been a beat since he's gone home to sci-fi. Now, his last couple of films, I have adored.
Yep.
The Fabelmans
Excellent.
is an excellent film, which nobody saw. West Side Story, a movie I kind of crapped on before they did it. I'm like, Steven, why are you doing like, was it? We're the Jets. Like, who wants to see West Side Story today? Why are you doing West Side Story? And then West Side Story came out and I saw it and it's freaking amazing. It's so good. And again, nobody saw it. I mean, Steven Spielberg, you know what? I've made all these blockbusters my whole life. I want to just make some movies that are really close to my heart. I don't care if people see them, I guess. And by the way, his Ready Player One, amazing. I love Ready Player One. I never read the book. I just saw the movie and I thought the movie was great. But him going home to the world of E.T., him going home to the world of Close Encounters, him going back into like sci-fi, and the idea of a UFO movie being directed by Steven Spielberg, that is enough to get me legitimately excited. So, I mean, I'll wait to find out for sure if that's what it's going to be, but we'll find out. Anyway, Chris, you heard about this. Spielberg, it's coming out in 2 years. So that means he's going to be rolling cameras here any day now, I suppose. So do you think Variety's right? Is he going back to the UFO stuff? How much longer can he make films? What do you think about this?
He can make films for as long as he freaking wants to. He can do whatever. I love this man. He's great. And I love that he shares that joy with other filmmakers. I love when Steven Spielberg walks up to other people and is like, I love that movie you did. I love this thing.
Oh yeah, who did he just do that to again?
Ryan Gosling.
That's right. He went to Ryan Gosling. He loved Fall Guy. That's right.
And you know, sci-fi, he's the best at, right? E.T., Close Encounters, Minority Report. He's done so many incredible films that I love him getting back to this. AI, oh my gosh, there's another movie that makes me cry all the time.
yeah.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
that one. Oh.
On the other hand, I really want a Tintin sequel, and I'm so frustrated. I know it's just me. It's just me and Andy Serkis who want this, but I really want him to make that movie too. But if he goes back to that, I love it.
You know they're making a Tintin game, right? So you can look forward to that at least.
They are making a Tintin game?
Yeah. It's on pre-order right now. I believe
Hello,
it's on the
Internet?
Switch, so I'm gonna actually try to get it.
Well, see, the interesting thing about Tintin was that for those of you who don't remember this, I'm sure a lot of you do, but for those of you who don't, so Steven Spielberg and Peter Jackson, they got together and said, we love Tintin. So let's make a couple of Tintin movies where I'll produce the first one and you direct the first one. Then on the second one, you produce it and I'll direct it. And then the third one, right? They were going to do this. And then they made the first Tintin and people seemed to really like it.
Yeah.
But never have we heard it spoken of again. They've never gone back to it. His agent says, oh yeah, they're still looking at that, but I doubt it's ever going to happen at this point.
Oh, I just want to be clear. The game is called Tintin Reporter Cigars of the Pharaoh.
I'm literally watching the trailer right now.
That is such a great title. I have no idea what that means, but that is such a great title.
It's precious, and I will give them all my money.
Honestly, if Spielberg comes out and says, hey, it's going to be an alien movie, but he's going to be stuck at an airport.
Oh my God.
Terminal.
Stop trying to make the Terminal happen.
2. You see, that's how good he is.
It's not happening.
That's how good he is. Even the movie you hate, I love. I mean, I'm welcome to anything Steven Spielberg, especially if it goes into the alien space
alien
UFO.
who's trapped in an airport terminal.
If they announced, is it for sure it's going to be an alien movie? Because I'm
No.
so
Variety's saying it's going to be based on a UFO movie, but there's been nothing else that's confirmed that.
I love Close Encounters. I love his
Close
last
Encounters
movie.
so good.
And the Fabelmans. I cannot wait for whatever he's gonna. As long as it's not a musical. I'm sorry, I'm just not a musical guy.
Marcus
Love a musical.
Marcus Y is giving us a title. He's saying it should be called Terminal 2 Space Airport. So there you go.
There you go.
You're disappointing me, man. That's 2 in a row, man.
All right, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? Spielberg's his next movie is coming out just 2 years from now in 2026. Only thing we've got so far is a report from Variety saying it's a UFO movie. I'm stoked for it because it's the greatest of all time. But whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys, with that down, we still got a couple other things to talk about. We got to review the new Furiosa movie that came out and the first reactions for this Star Wars The Acolyte series that I have not liked the trailers for have come out, and they are surprisingly really good. We're going to talk about that and a few things more. But before we do, we're going to take a couple seconds here and thank a couple of sponsors of today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast, our friends at Cuts Clothing and Liquid IV. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's video, Cuts Clothing. Let's be real. Most guys would wear a t-shirt every day of their lives if we could. The problem is that most t-shirts are not acceptable to wear at work or out on a hot date. Today's sponsor, Cuts, has finally changed that. Cuts t-shirts are such high quality, wrinkle-free, and so buttery soft that you can look like you're dressing up even when you're dressing down. Yeah, you heard that right. They are wrinkle-free. And for a limited time, you can save money while redefining the dress code by heading to cutsclothing.com and use the code Campea for 20% off. Guys, you know me, when it comes to clothing, my number one priority is comfort, and I could not believe just how comfortable my Cuts shirt was. It was light, it breathed, it felt like $1,000,000, and it made me feel like I looked like $1,000,000 too. And the best part? Cuts clothing is built to last. Their durable construction means you'll be enjoying your favorite shirts and pants for years to come, making them a smart investment for your wardrobe. So guys, for a limited time, our listeners get 20% off your entire order when you use the code Campea at checkout. That's 20% off your order at cutsclothing.com with the promo code Campea. Please support our show by telling them that the John Campea Show sent you. Experience the perfect blend of style and comfort with Cuts Clothing. Guys, we want to thank the sponsor of today's video, Liquid IV. You know, it seems like summer's just designed to make us thirsty, whether it's camping, hiking, playing sports, and staying hydrated is the key to making the most of every moment. Because summer requires extraordinary hydration that's built for everyday dehydrating moments. Liquid IV hydrates you with benefits like electrolytes, essential vitamins, and clinically tested nutrients. With 3 times the electrolytes of the leading sports drink, plus 8 vitamins and nutrients in a single stick, it's clearly why Liquid IV is the #1 powdered hydration brand in America. It has 3 times the electrolytes of the leading sports drink. Just tear, pour, and live more. Just 1 stick plus 16 ounces of water hydrates better than water alone. With 8 vitamins and nutrients, non-GMO and free from gluten, dairy, and soy. There's no artificial colors or sweeteners, and it's got 4 delicious sugar-free flavors: white peach, green grape, raspberry melon, and lemon lime. So turn your ordinary water into extraordinary hydration with Liquid IV. Get 20% off your first order of Liquid IV when you go to liquidiv.com and use the code Campea at checkout. That's 20% off your first order when you shop Better Hydration today using promo code Campea at liquidiv.com. And thank you to our friends at Cuts Clothing and Liquid IV for sponsoring today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast. All right, guys, with that down, let's move on to this, shall we? Garfield, thankfully, was not the only film to open in theaters this weekend. Ray disapproves. Another film, the newest in George Miller's Mad Max saga, Furiosa, also opened in theaters this weekend. We went out to go see it. Now, they gave us a big presentation for it at CinemaCon, and it looked really good, looked intense, looked great. Early reactions were kind of saying, super intense, great action, story might be a little thin, but overall, a real banger. So it's with that we went in there. Now, just to remind everybody, right now, the critic score for it is a 89%, and the audience score is currently sitting at 95%. Do I agree with this? I do. I really do. This is an epic film. Like, it's shot in such a way, and this can partially be said about the last film, Fury Road, as well. But when you look back at the older films, some older films at any rate, films like Cleopatra, films like Ben-Hur, things like that, there is a, you know what you mean when you see something that feels like it's epic in scale. Even more so than Fury Road, this movie feels like an epic. It feels like a George Miller epic. Let me get my criticism out of the way. It's a little long. And there are a couple of moments in the film here and there that feels like it's dragged out and really could have had 5-10 minutes cut out here and there and that kind of stuff. That's my biggest critique of the film. Because how long is this movie, Ray? If you
Let me
like, it was
actually check
like,
that for you.
wasn't it like 2 hours and 20 minutes or something like that, which isn't the longest movie, but it felt a little bit long. But I'll tell you what, the action, every bit is on par with it is 2 hours and
2
20
hours
minutes.
and 28 minutes.
2 hours and 20 minutes. And the action, every bit is on par as with Fury Road. The world they built, it's awesome seeing Immortan Joe again and his idiot kids and the Citadel and the whole thing and going back to the Badlands. But let me tell you this right now. While the headline name is Anya Taylor-Joy, which that is never a bad thing because she's amazing and she's great in this movie, make no mistake about it. This is Chris Hemsworth's movie, in my opinion. Because Anya Taylor-Joy, I remember when Anya Taylor-Joy first came on screen, I looked down my watch. She doesn't even show up in the movie till about an hour into the movie. And I'm not sure, I'd have to go back and count, but I'm not sure Anya Taylor-Joy has more than 10 to 12 lines in the film. She's mostly, Chris, you put it perfectly. She's kind of like a Mad
She's
Max
the Max,
in this.
yeah.
She's more grim and her performance is fantastic, even without dialogue. But she's like more grim and more silent more often than not. But she does have dialogue, but not a ton of it. But Chris Hemsworth's in this movie from the beginning to the end. And his character Dementus is so good. And seeing him going face to face with Immortan Joe is awesome. And it's just incredible. And again, the intensity that Anya Taylor-Joy brings to the role is incredible. The vehicular action and violence is like pure peak Fury Road. It's so good. And it's so engaging and it's so thrilling. And getting to see the War Boys again and all this kind of stuff and following Furiosa's journey to becoming who it is she ultimately becomes is really fantastic. Now, I'm not ready to say that Furiosa is better than Fury Road, but I'll just say it is a worthy follow-up. This is a worthy follow-up. And I'm not big on prequel stories. I rather stories go forward. I would have rather have seen a Furiosa movie following Charlize Theron after the events of Fury Road. Yeah. That's what I would have preferred to have seen. That being said, they decided to do a prequel story, and George Miller just kills it. Miller's approaching his 90s, isn't he?
Oh.
And he has not lost an ounce of his potency. Like, not an ounce.
79.
He's 79? So he's approaching his 80s.
Yeah.
This guy has not lost an ounce of his potency. He is still totally on top of his game.
Yeah.
The performances he was able to bring out of all these characters and this world is fantastic. I'm not going to say this is a top 5 film of the year. Like, I don't think it's going to end up as a top 5, but I could see it ending up in my top 10 of the year. It's a real good, fun movie that I thoroughly enjoyed. Wow. Anyway, Ray, you had a chance to go see this movie with me.
My first exposure to Mad Max.
Yeah, because you never saw Fury Road.
No. So he
went in watching Furiosa in chronological order.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, this character has left an impact on me. Just the character itself. I really like this character. The strength of this character, the perseverance. Like, I think this is one of my favorite movies of the year so far. It could be in my top 5. There's only 3 or 4 parts I didn't like about it. And they all have to do with the same thing. There's some shots where it's like, wow, they're not there. Like the window parts, like let's say in the chase and the window, you could tell it's a screen where it looked really bad. I mean, even in the Hawkeye chase scene, it looked fantastic. So I know it's possible to do it. I just don't know if it was something that.
Let me throw this in here. There's a scene in the movie where, because there is some bad visual effects.
Yeah, there's like
particularly compositing.
Yeah.
Because there's this one scene in particular where Chris Hemsworth, Dementus, is driving this truck. And he's moving it forward, and then he's moving it backwards, and he's moving it forward. And the camera's on him, and you could so tell that he's green screened and composited into the truck. Like it was very off-putting.
Yeah.
He can do his own stunts, but parallel parking was a doozy.
I mean,
What the hell?
here's the funny thing. Like, so much of this movie is practical effects.
Okay,
like,
good.
right?
Right.
So that when they do throw in some of the visuals, and look,
it's jarring.
maybe there's some remarkable visual effects that we didn't even realize were visual effects. But there are a couple of moments in the film where particularly the compositing was a little bit jarring. And that one shot for me was one of them. But other than that, it's no big deal.
This world, what I enjoy the most is just the primitive, like, sort of weapons that they create and use. Even some of the things they ride on, if you look at closely, it's things put together like gears and bolts. Like, it's a bunch of like makeshift vehicles. That's, when you look close, it's like, oh, that's a motorcycle inside like on top of a car or this and that, that make it work to make it look menacing. I'm like, that stuff to me, I'm not a gearhead, but this movie makes me want to be a gearhead. You know what I mean?
There
like,
was one shot that came out from the movie, and it works even better in the movie. So like Chris Hemsworth, you know, he's basically his whole horde rides motorcycles, and he's on a chariot like a Roman emperor with 3 motorcycles pulling it, and he controls the motorcycles with these straps like he's reining in horses.
It's so
and just
great.
like, so I saw the picture of it and I thought, oh, that looks cool. But then you see it in the movie, it's like, I want that. I want to go barreling down the 405 with my chariot of 3 motorcycles. And I want that so bad. Anyway,
That'd be pretty cool.
Chris, you were supposed to go see this last
No,
night.
I was supposed to see it, and then, gosh dang it, I like my students too much, and we went over by 30 minutes, so I missed my screening, and all that was left was 4DX. And I couldn't, you guys. And even Logan, who loves 4DX, was like, I think you are going to hate this experience so much, and he wants me to like the movie. That's a good marriage right there. So we're seeing it right when I get home today. I'm going to go pick him up, and then we're going to go to a Regal.
Where's your expectation? Like, did you like Fury Road?
Loved Fury Road. My concern is, do we top the Duforier guitar guy? Like, were your motorcycle chariots the same equivalent of guitar guy?
I will just say there's some alluding. Let me just leave it at that. There's some alluding.
Okay, I can deal with that. Yeah, I'm really psyched about it. I love Chris Hemsworth. I just watched his wonderful Hot Ones episode where he was talking about this experience and everything and how much fun he had playing Dementis. And I really just want this guy to thrive outside of his role as Thor.
He's so awesome.
I love him. I think he's so great. I think he's a great actor. I think he's a smart businessman. And I want to see him have a fun, juicy villain role. And I'm really happy to hear that this delivers. My favorite review I've heard so far, I think it was A.A. Dowd, said that you won't miss Max. You won't miss either, you don't. Either version of that, because this is just a baptism of petrol and blood is the direct quote he used. And I was like, oh, that's all I need. Let's go.
I don't care who Max is, actually.
I was going to say something, but I won't. Anyway.
Yeah.
Look, again, I'm not going to sit here and say it's better than Fury Road. I'm not there, but it's a truly worthy successor to Fury Road. This is a fun, bombastic movie. Get out to see it. Because according to the opening weekend box office tracking, I think there are going to be some seats available. So go out and see it. I think you're going to have a good time. If you liked Fury Road, I feel very safe in saying you will like Furiosa. It's absolutely phenomenal film. Well done. Again, George Miller. Anyway, guys, question is for you. Did you have a chance to get out there and see Furiosa? If so, what did you think? If not, are you planning on seeing it? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. That down, let's move on to this, shall we? So there is a Star Wars show coming out that I have been ridiculously excited for ever since they announced it. They announced Star Wars The Acolyte back when they announced Shogun years ago. And that is the one Star Wars thing I've been super pumped about. Couldn't wait to see it, all this kind of stuff. Then, they started putting out trailers. And I got to tell you, I have not been impressed with the trailers. Look, I am no Star Wars hater, but I just don't think the trailers have been all that good. Now, they did put out that clip the other day showing the fight scene. And we talked about it on the show yesterday. That's the best thing they've put out so far. That was a really good clip. I'll give them that. It's just that the trailers look really shaky to me. It doesn't feel like I'm in a Star Wars universe. It feels a little too clean and polished, like a cable soap opera show or something like that. It doesn't have a 24 frames per second kind of film feel to it, which is I thought they should have done. So I've gotten very worried. I think, let's just say I've gotten worried about the Acolyte. Well, the first reactions have now come out. And here, before I read them, let me tell you this. I know for a fact, because I know a number of these people, that a number of the people whose reactions we're about to read are not fans of Disney Star Wars. I just want you to keep that in the back of your head, that there's a couple of, I'm not going to put a spotlight on them, but there's a couple of people whose reactions we're going to read have not been big fans, particularly of the Disney Plus Star Wars stuff. Save the Mandalorian. But a couple of these people who are about to hear their reactions are not big fans of recent Star Wars. Let's see what these first reactions are for Star Wars The Acolyte. They're going to start off, this comes to us from the direct, and they start off from a guy who I've had on my show a couple of times, Gizmodo's Jermaine Lucier. He's great. He writes, beholden to nothing except being Star Wars, The Acolyte soars. It's an interesting, fun, character-driven mystery with real stakes that you care about, bolstered by all the fixings that make it Star Wars. Saw the first 2 episodes and loved them. By the way, a number of these people have seen the first 4 episodes. Some of them have seen the first 2 episodes. So it's kind of mixed. Why some got to see 4 and some got to see 2, I'm not really sure, but that's the way it is. That's what Jermaine said. Next up, comicbook.com wrote, I've waited so long for The Acolyte, and I cannot believe how much it's living up to my expectations. I love the first 2 episodes. It's so exciting to see a new, well, old era explored in live action. Leslie Headland did a dynamite job fleshing out these characters. I'm obsessed. By the way, Leslie Headland is one of the main reasons I've been excited about this. She was the showrunner on Russian Dolls, which is an incredible series. And so I got really excited that she was coming over to do this. Anyway, let's keep going here. The Movie Podcast wrote a little bit more of a mixed thing. 4 episodes into Star Wars The Acolyte, and it's a mixed experience. The lore hints at Knights of the Old Republic potential, yet the pacing occasionally lags. While the fight scenes are engaging, they often feel misplaced. Hoping to see stronger performances and a clearer narrative direction soon. Then we move on to Screen Rant, who wrote, Star Wars The Acolyte gives me Kill Bill vibes. Every episode left me wanting more, in a good way. We've seen so much about the fall of the Jedi, but this show explores what the Jedi were like during peacetime, which is quite fascinating. Amandla Stenberg is outstanding. Perry Nemiroff wrote, I've seen 4 episodes of The Acolyte, and thus far, it's a very big winner. The cast of characters, the heavy emphasis on practical effects, the stunts, how they're exploring what it means to be a Force user, and how the Jedi Order operates, it's all working quite well. Amanda Stenberg is the headliner a story like this needs. She's got her hands full with this one, and she soars tackling the challenge. I could also watch her command the screen during fight scenes for hours. The precision and grace, which we saw a little bit of on the clip yesterday, which makes the combat exhilarating to watch, but also functions as beats that speak to who she is and how she chooses to operate in the given moment. Another writer from Screen Rant wrote, The Acolyte is fantastic. It captures everything that is great about classic Star Wars while feeling new and unique. The fight scenes are phenomenal and the visuals are stunning. With an intriguing mystery and a top-notch cast, this is a show every Star Wars fan needs to watch. Then from Slash Film, Peter Surratt over at Slash Film wrote, Saw the first 2 episodes of Acolyte, and I loved that it felt so much like classic Star Wars, while at the same time feeling new, fresh and different from anything we've seen before. The action felt movie level, so excited to see. And then Comic Book Resources, Ben wrote, Yeah, I think The Acolyte's going to do well with fans, especially those who want an easy entry point into new Star Wars stories. Ironic given the massive volume of High Republic books and comics released last year. Anyway, it goes on and it goes on. The thing, again, the reason this has really piqued my interest as somebody who has not liked the trailer so far is, again, the fact that I know, I won't say which ones, but a couple of these people I know are not modern Star Wars fans. And yet they seem to love this thing. Now, there's another little bit of a asterisk we have to put on here, which is this. Disney Plus shows don't have a problem starting strong. Even Obi-Wan, which you could kind of feel it was starting to fall apart in the second episode. But the first episode of Obi-Wan, I thought was great.
So good.
I thought the first episode of Obi-Wan was so good. And there have been a couple of other Disney Plus series, either on the Star Wars or the Marvel side, that I ended up not liking, but I thought started well. She-Hulk. She-Hulk, I thought, started strong. I really loved the first episode. And then by the end of it, I really didn't like the show. So I just want to throw that up. I am not saying that's what's going to happen with The Acolyte, okay? I'm just saying that maybe we should take context into consideration here that we've seen Star Wars and other Disney Plus shows start strong. Still, knowing the pessimism that some of these people have had about this show, knowing the pessimism I have about the show, I like what I'm hearing. I mean, listen, Chris, I at least got to say this. My interest has been waning for The Acolyte, right? I went from being super stoked about this for years, building up to it, to those, honestly, to me, the trailers were so flat, I could physically feel my excitement level lowering day by day for The Acolyte. Hearing this reaction, particularly from people who have not had high expectations for this show, I got to admit is regaining a bit of my enthusiasm here. I'm hoping I'm into it. What do you make of these first reactions we're hearing?
These are great reactions. I particularly, I really trust Perry. And so that gives me a lot of hope for this.
Yeah.
And that fight scene I thought was phenomenal. I thought that was really, really fun and cool. And I thought if that's what this is going to have a ton of, that's what I'm here for. I want to see some really cool, badass Jedi fights, especially with what Lee Jung-jae is delivering there. He just looks so cool. He looks like such a badass in this. That being said, I have been burned before. I don't trust and love anyone. So the first 2 episodes, I love that they're great. According to Perry, first 4 episodes, really well done. This is also an 8-episode ordered series.
Yes.
And we've seen this happen time and time again where the show just does not know how to stick the landing because it has such a short runway to do so.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is the biggest problem that Disney keeps running into, is having these really short order seasons. Tell your story. Tell the story in the amount of time it takes. And because it's streaming, and we've seen this with some of these shows, sometimes they can be an hour-long episode. Sometimes it can be a 30-minute episode. You use the episode as you need to. But I want you to tell the story and not be kind of taken out at the knees because you have only 8 episodes to do it. And that is my fear of what could happen here. But I'm going to go in cautiously optimistic because Star Wars, you always got to have hope. You always got to have hope that they're going to deliver. And I want it to do so well. I'm on the opposite end. I've really enjoyed what I've seen so far of this. I know it's not been everyone's cup of tea.
You've liked the trailers.
Yeah, I've enjoyed them because I don't want them to tell me too much. I don't want to know too much about this. And I feel like there's a lot of potential here. It's just that 8-episode order that is the thing that is really making me nervous about the whole situation.
You know what's funny? One of the things I hate about Disney Plus, hate, is that you want us to take you as serious must-event watch television. How about not these bullshit 36-minute episodes? Like, if you want it to be serious appointment television, like House of the Dragon is, like Last of Us is, why don't you give us appointment television runtimes? But I just watched Sugar.
Ooh, yes, on Apple TV.
On Apple TV.
I just started that.
And I really like it.
Mm-hmm.
It's about 35 to 40-minute episodes. And here's the funny thing. I had to sit back and go, wait a minute. the episodes, like I watched the first 2 or 3 episodes, and then I was going to the next episode and I saw the runtime. I'm like, oh, this is a short one. Then I looked at the runtime of the ones I'd watched. It's like, they're all 35 to 40. These episodes did not feel like 35 to 40 minutes. Like for some reason, Sugar, starring Colin Farrell on Apple TV, those episodes feel like fully fleshed episodes. Whereas Disney Plus with their 35-minute stuff, it feels like, wait a minute, I feel like the show just started. Wait a minute, They haven't even gotten into anything. Every episode of Sugar felt like a true chapter of the story. Disney Plus has not figured that out yet.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the runtimes of the episodes of Acolyte are. I certainly hope they're longer than the bullshit 30-minute episode nonsense. At least I hope it is. I don't think it is, though. I think I remember them saying they're going to be between like 30 and 45 minutes.
30 and 40 minutes, yeah. That's what CBR says.
Now, I think they're going to launch with the first 2 episodes.
Yeah.
Which I am.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. But listen, I just got to say, as somebody who has been losing my interest due to the, I think not great, in my opinion at any rate, not great trailers, and I've been losing my interest for the Acolyte, hearing from some people who have also lost interest in the Acolyte saying that they've seen the first 4 episodes and absolutely love it. All right. Okay. I'm on board then. I'm on board. I'm back on board until your incompetence kicks me back off. I'll jump back on the wagon until your own ineptitude kicks me back off. I mean, so I'll go in with a little bit more expectation, I think. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about these first reactions from the Acolyte? Again, listen, keep in mind, even though Disney has killed it with some Disney Plus shows, right? They have WandaVision, first couple of seasons of Mandalorian, Andor, one of the best things they've put out. They can stick the landing, but a lot of times they have not. They have started strong and finished weak. So I don't know. Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, it's time for us to move on to the most important part of our show, which is hearing from you guys. But before we do, we're going to take another quick second and thank another sponsor of today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast, our friends at The Wellness Company. Guys, we want to thank a sponsor of today's video, The Wellness Company. Okay, so you wake up with a scratchy throat, congestion, runny nose, and cough. You know your body. You know you're getting sick. So your choices are tough it out, get sick, and take time off work, or hope the doctor can see you this month, or wait 2 hours at urgent care and sit in a room full of sick people, or open your medical emergency kit. Match your symptoms to the doctor-recommended prescription. Start on the right meds and nip this in the bud now. Your medical emergency kit is not a first aid kit. It comes with doctor-prescribed meds to treat over 39 medical issues. Strong antibiotics for infections of all types, strep throat, pneumonia, UTIs, bronchitis, and so much more. Plus, a doctor's easy guide so you'll know exactly what to take and when. There's no waiting to see the doctor, no waiting at the pharmacy. It's all in here. Every home should have at least one medical emergency kit. Order yours online in just minutes. Your kit will be rushed right to your door, and you can get 15% off at twc.health/Campea and use promo code Campea when you check out. That's promo code Campea at twc.health/Campea. And thank you to our friends at The Wellness Company for sponsoring today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast. All right, guys, with that down, let's get over to your questions here, shall we? And we're going to start off with an anonymous viewer. Remember, guys, when you use the tip link, if you want to be anonymous, that's totally fine. But if you're going to write in and support our show, I want to make sure you get a shout out. So don't forget to fill in the box that puts your name in there, because if you don't put in your name, it'll just say anonymous. Anyway, anonymous viewer writes, "Hey, John and crew. Can't believe the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare is already out on streaming. Have you watched it, and what are your thoughts?" Yes, I mean, I obviously I'm a big Henry Cavill guy. I really liked Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. It's a little bit different than I was expecting. And again, horrible that it's gone to streaming so fast.
Yeah.
They are killing their theatrical business. They just are. That's something we'll talk a little bit more about tomorrow, though. So there's that. All right. Next up. Thomas BDL. I wonder if that's Tom Bombadil. Anyway, writes 1 of 3. Hey, John. Yesterday, the team began to tell you about an Apple show called The Big Door Prize with Chris O'Dowd. I love Chris O'Dowd.
Yes.
My favorite comedy of the year, and I think you'd like it too. The showrunner is one of the writers and producers of Schitt's Creek. Really? That's all you had to say. I'm on board. I'm totally on board.
Very different show, though.
Very. I assume it would be.
Yeah.
2 or 3. A weird machine appears in a small town and tells people about their life potential. People start to take it very seriously, which triggers regrets and midlife crises. They turn their lives upside down and try to reach their potential. I thought season 1 was good, but a bit uneven. Season 2, though, it's already got 2 seasons. Season 2, though, has been incredible. Each episode leaves you with a subtle and weirdly uplifting mix of melancholy and levity. It gives me the same wholesome feeling Ted Lasso and Shrinking gave me. Which one of you guys was the ones telling me about this show?
I've been telling you about it ever since. I've only gone through 3 episodes, but I just think
So you're still on season 1?
Yeah, I think the premise is so unique.
It's fun.
It's
and
such
weird.
a good. It's just
You've seen it too?
Yeah, I've seen all of season 1. I need to start season 2. I have to start season 2 of that and of Loot. I'm behind on my Apple shows, but it's fun. There's a mystery to it. It's
Yeah,
fun.
and the way people react off of just a machine telling them what they can be.
Yeah.
It's such a crazy show.
Oh, I'll tell you what. First of all, Chris O'Dowd, you got me
Amazing.
there.
Yeah, Bridesmaids, right?
But one of the producers and writers from Schitt's Creek, which I think for a comedy show, best comedy show of the last decade. I'll feel safe saying that. I think Schitt's Creek is the best comedy show of the last decade.
So well done. So well written.
Only show in Emmy history ever to win
To sweep.
best show, best director, best writer, best lead actor, best lead actress, best supporting actor, and best supporting actress all in the same year. No other show's ever done it.
One of the worst things you could say about anything, like in a movie or in a TV series, it's all over the place. I don't like when people say that. It's usually a bad. But Apple TV, as in show selection, being all over the place,
Very diverse.
It's
Yeah.
very good. A
Yeah.
good reason to say
They
that.
rule. That's why I say, like, if there was one streaming service, I'm not saying Apple TV is the best one right now, but if there was one streaming service I would say is the must-have, I might say Apple.
It's so
the
much
one you gotta-
quality.
Oh,
it's
they're
so much
good.
quality.
Quality and price.
If you ever did though those when you were in high school, the kind of like job assessment test of this
Yeah.
was what you'd be really good for, that's kind of what this show does. Of I'm going to tell you your potential, and it's this weird cryptic thing sometimes, or it's a very straightforward like you are this job or you are this thing, and it throws this town completely for a loop of how they all perceive each other and themselves. It's really fun.
All right. Next up, we got Anonymous who writes, "Hey, John, I was wondering how you felt about Disney casting Daphne Keane in The Acolyte, because to me it feels like a very calculated measure. I think they want her to come back and play Lara in X-Men, possibly. Thoughts?" No, 100% no. I'm not saying they have no desire to see her play X-23 again. I'm not saying that, but one has nothing to do with the other. First of all, let's be very clear. Disney did not cast her to be in The Acolyte. Lucasfilm did. In particular, the showrunner did. That has nothing to do with Marvel. And to suggest that the only reason she got cast is because they might want to play X-23. Well, she's been cast in other stuff too.
Yeah.
She's a really good, talented young actress. Not a lot of mystery to unsolve when there's a role that fits her and she got cast in it. So no, I really don't think one has to do with the other. And again, Disney did not cast her. Lucasfilm did, and they are completely devoid from Marvel at any point. All right. Let's see. Next up, where are we at here? We are at Optimus Prime Rib, who writes, "What's keeping studios from extending the theatrical window back to what it was pre-COVID? They're sabotaging themselves by putting films on VOD so fast. It is a toothpaste back in the tube futility because viewers are conditioned just to wait for home releases." That's
a really great.
a great
descriptor.
analogy.
Wow.
That is a great analogy.
But I mean, could you imagine trying that process?
I've
That's
done
very
that where
cute.
I've actually squeezed out too much toothpaste and I try to like get the bottle to suck it back
I
in.
just eat it, man. I
Yeah.
just eat it.
I just eat it.
I'm gonna just have extra.
That's like
toothpaste.
backwash to me. It's not. But it's just the action of it. It's like you wanted it, take it. Don't take a piece of cake and then put what you didn't eat back into the cake.
Why would you not finish cake?
Oh,
All right, to the question at hand. Listen, I understand, and I have studios wanting to try things, mix things up,
Sure.
all that kind of stuff. But this whole thing of what was the movie that Fall Guy just went to home video?
I was so confused.
My heart breaks for that
Yeah,
movie.
we turned the TV on and saw that was an option for us. And for why? Why would
Yeah,
you do that?
Like studios, like listen closely. And without being, we often joke about, Steven Spielberg, I know you're watching. There are studio people who watch this show. You're fucking idiots. You're idiots.
Respectfully,
I'm not going with you to CinemaCon next year.
With all due respect, you're idiots. What are you doing? Like one of the things I said on the show the other day, Chris, about the Fall Guy thing was, here's the thing. They're not undermining Fall Guy by putting it out so fast on home video. Because I get the initial thought, it's like, oh, we made no money in the theaters. Well, let's just dump it out on thing as fast as we can.
Yeah.
What you've done is you've undermined every other movie you're going to put out. Because what you've just done is you are conditioning the audience to go, oh, we don't need to go to the theater to see it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That is that's not what streaming is doing. That's not what anybody else is doing. What you are doing is conditioning the audience to say, you don't need to go to the theater to see this movie. You don't need to give us your money. You don't need to do it. You are the ones conditioning the audience to do that. And again, this is going way back, but when I was a kid, man, I remember like minimum, you had to wait 6 months for a movie to come out on video. And when it would finally come out on video, the anticipation, the excitement is like, oh yeah, that movie. Yeah. They are killing their own business. I've been saying this for a while. If the movie theater industry dies, it ain't streaming. People's going to stream. No. Streaming isn't doing any more damage to the movie theater business than VHS or DVD did. The people who are killing it are the movie theaters themselves and the studios. They're the ones killing it, and they've got to get their act together here. Anyway, you're idiots. Next up, we go to
These
Ricky
statements are not the
G.
use of
Leave it on a good note, John.
Ricky G writes, on the lack of subscribers for Apple TV, for Android, people who got Chromecast, only the latest one has Apple TV because the earlier versions, you have to cast from the app, and Apple isn't on Android devices. That's not true, is it?
It's tough for me to cast anything Apple. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
But I mean,
It's so finicky.
wait a
I
minute,
think.
you Apple TV is not in the Android App Store? I don't believe that. Hey, guys in the live chat, any of you guys who have the superior phone format, which is
check
Android.
because none of us have Android.
I say this as I am an Apple user. I have an iPhone, but Android's way better. So if you're on somebody who's on the fence about getting an iOS device or an Android device, as an Apple phone user, get an Android. But
we'll never put you in our group chats.
Yeah.
Never.
Yeah.
Let's say if this were true, no matter what. Let's say if it were true, it's a problem, right?
That is definitely a problem. Yeah, there's got to be some anti-competitive thing about that.
No, I believe that's what it's about. It is about that.
Yeah. The people in the chat are saying that it's not on Android. Apple TV Plus is not on there.
There was
Wow.
also Android doesn't have another thing that we talked about a long time ago too. So there are some limitations on what you're using, unfortunately.
Yeah, but again, I'm sure
That's a bummer.
probably a big part of it. But I mean, at the same time too, guys, get Apple TV. If you only had one streaming service, get Apple TV. All right.
Yep.
Let's keep going here. Next up, we have Dangerous D, who writes, you remember this unusual controversy in Hollywood called Alan Smithy? Yep. If a director of a movie didn't like the way their film was going, so they would tell the producers not to put his or her name on the film, so they credit it to a pseudonym, Alan Smithy. They even made a movie about this. Yeah, so back in the late 1960s, there was a movie that came out. There was a movie being made. It was a Western. And like 3/4 of the way through making the movie, the star had the director fired. And then they brought in a new director who finished off like the last third of the movie. But the new director even said, I wasn't in charge. Like this actor was in charge the whole way. And neither director wanted their name on the movie. So they came up with this made up name, Alan Smithy. And then that kind of became the accepted moving forward name that would be put on a movie as the director of the movie is Alan Smithy if the actual director, for whatever reason, didn't want their name associated with the film. Now, the rules changed, I think, in 2000, either 1990 or 2000, where the rules changed where that can't happen anymore. Somebody's name has to be on it. But Alan Smithy was used a number of times, yeah.
Dang, that's really cool.
That's crazy. Madam Web was filled with Alan Smithy.
Wait a second. It was written by, produced by, directed by,
All the actors
and
were?
starring all Alan Smithy.
That's wild.
All right. Next up, we got Nate Dogg, who writes, have you been watching The Sympathizer on Max? That is my next thing to start watching. Starring Robert Downey Jr. He plays 5 different characters. It's a legit funny show, and Robert is the best he's been in years. Another winner from HBO. HBO is another one that just like always seems to kill it. Again, it's not one I haven't started watching yet. I'm a little bit behind. I wanted to get Sugar done, and I've got Sugar done now. I'm now gonna try to move on to this one.
You know what's funny about HBO is like a lot of the shows that they release are great, except they don't release them as often as most other places, and maybe that's why, because they are so good that it takes time to make.
And because they've been around for so long, they have such a huge library that they don't need to rush out new shows.
But it feels like Apple's bringing out a show every month.
Yeah, because they have have nothing, right? So they kind of got to do that. All right, next up, Dante 2099 writes, part 1 of 3. What's up, John? Greetings from Germany. Have been watching you since the AMC days, and I just want to show some appreciation for all the work you do. Thank you so much, man. I just rewatched X-Men 97, and the show is so great for what it is, but it's got me thinking. I know the Avengers title is the flagship, biggest moneymakers Marvel has, but I just hope with the future integrations of the X-Men into our known universe that Marvel doesn't treat X-Men like B-level, secondary team to the Avengers. I have no reason to believe that they would, but as a lifelong fan, it was so great to see them portrayed so well in X-Men 97, which got my imagination running wild on what could be in live action form. Your thoughts, appreciate you. I could be wrong about this, and thank you so much for that, Dante. I could be wrong about this, but here's my guess. I think The Avengers is still going to be the main headline of the MCU. I think X-Men are going to be treated more like Guardians of the Galaxy, where they're super valuable, they're great, they're awesome, but when it comes time for the next Avengers movie, you're going to see some X-Men in there. And by the way, there's precedent for that in the comics.
Yes.
Many X-Men have been one of the Avengers, have been on the Avengers.
Storm, Rogue, Havoc, Sunfire, so many.
Yeah, there have been a lot of them there. And so moving forward, I think what you're going to do is you're going to get definitive X-Men movies, just like we have definitive Guardians of the Galaxy movies. But when it comes time for the next Endgame, just like you had Avengers and the Guardians of the Galaxy and all this kind of stuff come in, Doctor Strange, who is not an Avenger, I think you're probably going to see X-Men then be a part of that as well. So I think they're going to be treated very respectfully. Kevin Feige loves the X-Men, but I think you're going to see that as a part of the MCU, everybody in the MCU then builds up to the Avengers. So I don't know, Chris, how do you see that?
I think so. X-Men too, in the comics, they're so powerful. You know, we've got these Omega level threats and all these things, right? So I think they'll pop in and out of that team, but they are their own entity. There is something that unites them in a way that the Avengers are an assembly of different people of different talents and skills and sometimes mutations, sometimes extraterrestrial gifts, etc. Whereas the X-Men are always going to be their own unit,
Right.
but they will go join other teams. You know, there's X-Force, Avengers, West Coast, all those things. Everyone just pops around. They're all in different little clubs.
You're right about that. It's almost like when a big thing happens, that's when the Avengers come together, but they're all living in their own separate areas.
Yeah, gone are the days where they were all living in Avengers Tower.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right? So I think those days are gone. All right, let's move on here. Next up. Dante again writes, I agree with you that X actor and X role, but I'm not going to lie. I get chills thinking about Denzel, Giancarlo Esposito, even a Pierce Brosnan, really, portraying Magneto, floating above the heavens, giving a speech. Whoever is cast needs a voice with gravitas. Oh, absolutely. I agree with that. I don't see Pierce Brosnan as a Magneto, but
that could be fun though.
I could see him as a lot of different things.
Yeah.
But you're right. Somebody has to have, like, Giancarlo Esposito has a Magneto voice.
He does.
Like, that would be, Denzel would be able to have that power as well. There's a few, I keep going back to this lately, but Rutger Hauer in his day would have been such a good Magneto because he's got that voice too, right? But I think you're 100% right. I think it's whoever they get to play Magneto, one of the big things they've got to be able to have is that voice. So not one that sounds like the one in the cartoon or sounds like Ian McKellen, but has an authoritative, powerful voice, you know? So, that's the they got to do. All right. Tori Tuesday writes, "Hey, John, can you talk about Zaslav's stupid ass fumble of the NBA on TNT after the network's nearly 40-year run? I'm in absolute shock. We may never see Shaq, Charles, Kenny, and Ernie. They were a show, some people think the greatest sports show there is, called Inside the NBA. Anyway, after next season. Here's the thing, Tori, and I talked about this the other day. It was the right decision for them. I hate that we're not going to have those guys together again. I hate that we're not going to see Kenny and Barkley and O'Neal or Ernie. I hate that we're not going to have that show anymore. But your job is to keep your business alive. And when they sat down and evaluated, this is how much it's going to cost us to renew the rights to the NBA versus how much money it actually makes us. And if you don't think those numbers line up, then you don't do it. If you do, that's how you run your business under the ground. That's how you run your business into bankruptcy. That's how you run your... And I'm not saying that's the case, but I'm saying they had to, like everybody else, they had to step back and look, okay, to renew the license is going to cost us this much. And this is how much it actually generates for us. And if those numbers don't jive together, you put in the best offer you can. You put in the offer that you think is, at this number, it makes sense for us. And if somebody else comes over the top, listen, when Ann and I were house hunting, all right, we were looking around and we found a couple of houses we liked. And we know, okay, this is how much we can spend on a house. And we think we like this house and we're going to put in an offer. And then literally somebody came in and offered $100,000 more than we did. We offered as much as we could afford. And then somebody else came along and offered $100,000 more. Was it a stupid ass decision for us to lose that house? No, man, because for us to get the house would have cost us more than we could afford. It would have cost us more than it made sense for us to spend. And if you're Warner Brothers or anybody else, you say, we'll put in an offer for what we think this is worth to us. And if somebody else comes in and offers 75 million, 1.2 billion more than we do, God bless. But that doesn't make sense for us.
So much money to give a bank to let you live in a place.
I just think it sucks that if they do have an NBA after show, that they didn't pick up these guys up because they make the NBA after.
Ernie's got a contract with TNT. He can't go anywhere. Charles already said that he's not going to go do the show somewhere else. So and whatever new networks pick it up are going to want to create their own team.
Yeah.
Right. So, but I mean, listen, it sucks that we're not going to have that show anymore. But if Warner Brothers did the math and said, since we make this much money with the NBA, it makes sense for us to offer this much money for the contract. If somebody else comes in and wants to offer 500 million more than that, you would be an idiot to go, okay, let's just spend 500 million more. That's how you run yourself out of business. It is what it is, you know? So I think it sucks, but I get it. I just get it. All right. Let's see. Next up, we got an anonymous who writes, "Hey, John, with the returning X-Men, Spider-Man, Fantastic Four, and Blade, it seems that they are paying tribute to classic Marvel. So what about Lou Ferrigno's Hulk? No. He was absolutely amazing, and I would love to see him in makeup. Thanks, Dalium. No. They've already had Lou Ferrigno do a cameo, right? He did a cameo in Spider-Man with Stan Lee. they're not like the new Fantastic Four is not paying tribute to the old Roger Corman Fantastic Four. It's a new version of Fantastic Four. I think it would just come across as really corny today. Because listen, I grew up as a little kid watching reruns, of The Incredible Hulk. I loved that. What was the other actor? Bill Bixby? Is that the guy who played Dr. Banner? Lou Ferrigno as Hulk? Those were awesome. But today it would just come across not as fun. It would just come across as cheesy, I think. So I'm going to say, no, I'm going to guess they probably should not do that. All right. Drew Russell writes, one of two. Per your recommendation, I've started watching Shrinking. Good. Best comedy on TV right now. And it got me thinking, would you be interested in a Good Will Hunting sequel? Damon's son is graduating and looking at college in Boston. Affleck and Damon have completely lost touch, and don't start writing the story for it. Holding up. Look, I'll say this. Would I be down for a Good Will Hunting sequel? Absolutely. 100%. Because I loved the characters. The characters were wonderful. That movie is based and built on the characters. And so just to go and revisit those characters, I won't write the story for them. Have it about Matt Damon's son does this and, Ben's in his characters, whatever story they want to write, right? But I just would be fascinated to see those characters again and go back and revisit them. Obviously, you'd have to mention the fact that Robin Williams is no longer there, which, by the way, Robin Williams won an Academy Award for that. It's not your fault. He won an Academy Award for that. But other than that, Drew, yeah, 100%, man. I would be totally down. Totally down to see that. All right. Rob W. writes, hey, John and crew, do you think Adam Driver is on his way to having a career like Michael Fassbender? Great actor with a string of bad movies dragging him down.
How dare you say 65 is a bad movie?
I like 65.
65 is fun.
I actually had fun with 65.
What's wrong with you
Reluctant
people?
single dad. It's a great genre.
What's wrong with you
So
people?
fun.
Nobody saw it, but 65
No,
wasn't bad. Now
it's
it's got
fun.
Metropolis coming out that apparently stinks.
But we talked about this
You're
though
gonna
last
pre-state
week,
that
where
one?
he's changing up his representation.
Yeah, so it is, for those of you who don't know, it's not a coincidence that recently he fired his representation. Because he also did Ferrari, which I thought he was very good in.
He's wonderful in.
But nobody wanted to see that movie. Nobody went to go see it. So here's the thing. I don't know what separates them, because you're right. I think that ultimately is what undercut Michael Fassbender's career, because Michael Fassbender was a legit A-lister. And then a string of horrible movies, not horrible performances, but horrible movies kind of made, I guess, people not want to cast him as much. Afraid that maybe their new movie would be associated with some of those bad movies. For whatever reason, and I don't know if you agree or disagree, I don't feel like Adam Driver is in that same risk. I don't feel like any of the shine, for whatever reason, that some of the shine came off of Michael Fassbender's name, which is unfortunate because he's awesome. I don't feel like any of the shine has come off of Adam Driver's name. I don't know. How do you see it?
I don't think so at this point in time. Because you got to remember, we also had Marriage Story.
Yeah,
We've had
which
some
is
really
so
great
good.
things for him. House of Gucci, he was fabulous in. Everyone in that movie is in a different movie, though. So he's in a very different movie than some of those actors. I think he still has that shine on there. I really want him to get back to, I think a lot of people forget that Adam Driver is also hilarious.
Yeah.
And he proves it each time he's on SNL. But when he first started out, yes, there was girls and everything, but he was doing these smaller roles in things like What If, also known as the F Word, in This Is Where I Leave You, where he is the funny, charming, kind of cad, like brother or best friend role. And he was killer at all of those. He's a wildly diverse actor who can do so many things. And I same for Michael Fassbender, though. He's a tremendous actor. I just think Driver is in a different place. But he needs to start getting some great movies under his belt. Otherwise, that could happen to him.
Listen, he's already had Academy Award nominations.
Yeah.
His greatest role is still Matt the Radar Technician. I don't care what anybody ever says. Adam Driver's greatest role is still Matt the Radar Technician.
Yo, Matt sucks.
Matt sucks. I haven't had my muffin yet, Matt. I love Matt the Radar Technician. Okay. Let's keep going here. Ivan Pietro writes, 1 of 4. Hey, John, love the show. Thank you so much. Been watching every day since the Batman versus Superman discussion back on Collider. I hate to bring politics into it. Oh, here we go. But this has been on my mind for a while, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts. I'm convinced that Hollywood doesn't care about Latinos/Hispanics in film. Reason I think this is due to the lack of representation in film. The Latino community makes up nearly 30% of the movie-going audience, yet we are rarely ever being represented in the movies. Within the last year, we have movies like Flamin' Hot. I really like Flamin' Hot, by the way. A Million Miles Away and The Long Game, which I thought were some of the most beautiful films I've ever seen, but they went straight to streaming and had little to no marketing, and no one is talking about them. It's frustrating. I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking this just a tad bit. What are your thoughts? Well, listen, the first thing I need to point out here is that you might be right when you say that Hollywood doesn't really care about Latinos and Hispanics, in the sense that they don't care about anybody.
Yeah.
They don't care about Italians. They don't care about white people. They don't care about black people. They don't care about straight people. They don't care about gay people. Hollywood is a business, and they care about what makes them money, just like any other business. Jean making companies care about making money. Shoe making companies care about making money. Uber cares about making money. Whoever else, whatever else, a business is there to make money. So they don't care about anybody. All they care about is, can you make us money? And if they think having some group or demographic, big or small, being in a movie is going to make them money, they'll put them in and try to make themselves some money. I would not say today, especially, that there's no representation. Now, I say this from the perspective of a white dude, so I'm not as aware of it. So take that with a grain of salt and forgive me if I'm wrong. But like today, you've got guys like Diego Luna, Pedro Pascal, Jenna Ortega, Oscar Isaac, Selena Gomez. You have Jennifer Lopez. Her new movie just came out. By the way, did you see the Hollywood Reporter's headline of the review?
I have not.
What's the name of her new movie again? But
I just know Simu Liu is in it.
Simu Liu is in it. Basically, it's like Netflix puts out another movie that you can half watch while you're folding the laundry.
Oh no!
Yeah, real bad. Anyway,
Atlas. That's what it's called.
Atlas is what it's called. Atlas. America Ferrera, Benicio del Toro. You know, I think it feels to me. And again, this is from the perspective of some white dude, so I'm not as tuned into this. It feels to me like there is some half decent representation.
We're getting there. I think we're getting there eventually. It's just that the actors that you named off, not just Latino, they just have to prove that they can make a studio money, and that's the thing. It doesn't matter if you can make money. Then they'll put the people up in the front, I think.
Well, and it's
right?
such a chicken and egg scenario, though, because this has been a conversation countless times with things like Crazy Rich Asians, with Joyride, with Blue Beetle, of in order for audiences to come see a movie, you got to make the movie.
Right.
And in order for the movie to be made, you have to prove to financiers that there's money to be made.
Right.
And, you did an op-ed piece about this, I remember a while ago, too, of just Hollywood historically has been pretty racist,
right?
Where it's been very like white dominated, and that is shifting, but it also is going to take audiences showing up, studios showing up, and everyone working together to get that representation shown. And it's going to take audiences not screaming woke every time somebody who doesn't look like them is in a role.
Here's a good example. What was I'm forgetting the name of he was in The Office. Not The Office, sorry, he was in Parks and Rec.
Aziz Ansari?
No, the gay character.
Billy Eichner?
Billy Eichner had a movie out a couple of years ago.
Bros.
Oh, yeah, right.
Bros.
I loved that
right?
movie.
So here's the thing. So here's an industry saying, let's roll the dice and make a rom-com about two gay characters, right? It wasn't, and they marketed it. I didn't think the trailers were very good, but they did market it. It was out there. The audience didn't show up. The audience didn't go. So the Hollywood will always experiment because they want to find things that's going to make them money. Believe me, Hollywood is dying to find the newest niche that's going to make them some money. They would love it. They want it. So they'll experiment with things. So they do Bros, right? a movie which you really enjoyed. I didn't think was that good.
Oh,
But
loved
you know,
it.
a number of people thought, but nobody went to go see it. Absolutely nobody went to go see it. So the reason then maybe the industry backed off a little bit from maybe trying another one isn't because they're adverse to doing a rom-com with two gay lead characters. It's they're adverse to losing money. So what's got to happen is when movies like that, and they're always experimenting. They're always experimenting. The next time you see a Hollywood studio experiment with that, make sure you go out and see it. They just did, DC did Blue Beetle. A good little movie.
It's so fun.
It's a good little movie.
I'm
I
so
liked it.
disappointed that people did not show up for that
No,
movie.
but now, granted, there was other issues with that. It was DC. Everybody had already given up on
Yeah.
DC. I understand that. Yes. But, you know, the audiences didn't show up for it.
And also-
that's what the studio's here.
And also, this guy, don't worry, because you ain't got nothing on Filipinos. We only have what? Jacob Batalon. That's it.
Yeah, Jacob
And then we
Barcelona
had-
and Sunday, Easter Sunday.
And we had one
Joe
shot,
Coy.
one shot to change this. And Joe Coy came up with that movie. And now you'll never see a Filipino-led movie ever again. More likely you're going to see a Jenna Ortega-led movie than a Joe Coy-led movie.
And
I
she's
wanted that
blowing
to
up
be
right now.
good.
Jenna
I wanted that to be
Ortega's.
so good. I love his comedy.
So don't feel so bad. I mean, we're getting there. We're working towards there. We just got to make money. That's what Hollywood is saying. You got to make money.
All right. Let's move on here. Next up. Oh, James had a second. Was that James? Oh, no. Here we go. James writes, one of two. Hey, John and crew. Hope everyone is well. Last weekend, I saw Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Awesome. And I thought it was awesome. However, that's not all. Before the film, the first time they showed the Deadpool and Wolverine trailer at the cinema. When I saw Deadpool and Logan walking on screen with Like a Prayer playing in the background, I was blown away. I've already booked my tickets. I'm going on both the 25th and the 26th. I'm so much looking forward to this film. I cannot wait. Cannot wait. Let's fucking go. You know what was funny? Last night when we went to go see Furiosa, they played something in front of the movie that I had only seen them play at CinemaCon, and I thought they were only going to show at CinemaCon.
Oh.
They've got this little thing where, and for those of you who saw Furiosa last night, you probably saw this too. The screen comes on and it's Deadpool and Wolverine walking through the sewer. At least it looks like they're walking through an underground thing, something like that.
Romantic.
And they're talking and you hear Deadpool going, okay, so what I think they're going to do in Secret Wars is they're going to, and then you hear a phone ring. And Deadpool, it's one of these like public service announcements. Wolverine's like, what the fuck is that? And Deadpool turns around, walks to the camera, goes, it's coming from out there. Someone's got their phone on. And then Hugh Jackman comes right up to the camera, like, listen, you, and they bleep everything out. Listen, you bleeping little bleep. I'm going to take your phone. I'm going to shove it right in here. And he's like, just goes off about like, put your stupid phone away. And then Deadpool's like, ooh, look at the neck veins. Anyway, and then they leave and walk off. But it's basically a turn off your phone, you idiots.
Oh, what's funny about that is before it, they actually had a disclaimer of it's the red screen for a trailer, right? You know how they play the green screen?
Oh yeah.
It was
they put the green,
the red band screen.
The green band. They put the red band
Before
for the following thing is a little adult.
Yeah.
It was great. I thought they were only going to show that at CinemaCon, so I was really excited to see that they're actually playing it in theaters. It's really, really cool. All right. Let's see. Next up, that was James. Next up, we got Cam, who writes, hey, John and crew, wanted to ask what's was all of y'all's first reaction and thoughts when Revenge of the Sith came out? It's my favorite Star Wars movie, and every time you slander it, I yell out, you were my brother, Campea, LOL. Well, listen, twice in my movie-going life, I've seen films that I've either loved and then later went on to go, what the hell was I thinking? That sucked. Or saw a film that I hated and later on went, what the hell was I thinking? I love this. First time I saw Inglourious Bastards, Quentin Tarantino's movie, I hated it. I didn't dislike it. I hated it. And then like a year later, I was on a date with this girl. She came back over. We decided to pop. She wanted to watch Inglourious Bastards, so I popped it on, whatever. Because, you know, keep
Really
the girl
set
happy.
the mood. Wow.
Yeah, like, well, I was like,
Hey,
keep her
baby, you want
happy.
to come on over and we're going to watch some Nazis get scalped? And then you see if she's a quality person.
That was her choice. She said, let's watch this. I'm like, I'm all right. And we're watching it, and I'm like, what? Was I just in a bad mood that day? This movie rules. Like, and now I love it's like my number 1 or number 2 favorite Quentin Tarantino movie now. The other time that's happened, that's the one time. The other time was with the Star Wars prequels. Like the first one I went to go see, The Phantom Menace. I saw it opening night in Toronto. I drove all the way back to Hamilton in Toronto so I could watch it in my favorite movie theater. And that was like 2,000 miles I drove. So I could watch it in my favorite movie theater. And I'm like, oh, yay, that was great. And then I saw it again. It's like, oh, that was really good. And then I saw it again. Oh, that's good. And then by like the 4th or 5th time, I'm like, this movie's really bad. It's really bad. But I kept going and going because I was working in a visual effects company at the time. And the visual effects in it were monumentally game changing. So I saw it like 17 times in theater.
There's going to be a third time for you, too. The future time.
Please don't say it.
All right, go on.
You're talking about Space Airport again? Yeah.
Your new favorite film.
Let's just shut that down right now. So the first time I saw Revenge of the Sith, which even to this day, I believe is the least offensive of the prequels.
Oh.
I think it is the least offensive of the prequels. In other words, I think it's the best film in the prequel series. The first time I saw it, I was like, well, that wasn't as bad as the other ones. And I felt pretty good about it. But then the same thing happened. I went back to the theater again. I'm like, liked it a little bit less. And then like by the third time I saw it in theater, I'm like, oh God, this movie sucks.
What was the last Star Wars movie that ever released? It wasn't The Last Jedi. It's the one after that.
Rise of Skywalker.
Rise of Skywalker.
That's the only Star Wars I all the rest of the Star Wars.
Oh, Rise of Skywalker is horrendous.
Really bad.
I actually think Revenge of the Sith is better than Rise of Skywalker.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, I think Revenge of the Sith is better than that.
Yeah.
God, I hate that. But listen, here's the thing to me. Everybody knows I dislike the prequels. That's fine. But I want you to love it. Just because I don't like it doesn't mean I don't want other people to like it. And anything that brings you joy and anything that gives you a positive experience at the movie theater, I'm all for that. I love that.
Yeah.
Just because I hate the movie doesn't mean I need you to hate it. I love that you love it. I think that's great. Doesn't change my thing of it that I really, really hate it, but that doesn't mean I need you to hate it or want you to hate it. There are too many people out there today that not only do they dislike something, they need everybody else to dislike it. And they'll spend all their time trying to get other people to dislike the things they dislike.
And it doesn't
love
matter
that you like it.
And it doesn't matter if John unfriends you or unfollows you on Twitter. It's just coincidence. It's just coincidence.
Total coincidence. All right. Next up, Joey writes, I did a double feature of Fall Guy and If. Nice. And both are great movies. I need more Ryan and Winston acting together in my life. Ryan Gosling and Winston Duke on camera together were really great. I loved how smart of a movie If was. Kept trying to figure out the ending. Also, the opening felt similar to the opening of Up. Yes, in many ways it did. It had that, again, that's why when we were watching If, and that's what I meant by when I meant that Anne was ugly crying through like most of the film, like starting right with that opening. She was just like ugly crying through most of the film. Guys, if you get a chance, go and see If.
I gotta go see that.
I mean, your mileage may vary. You may like it, you may not, but I thought it was a really nice, special little movie. All right, next up, we got Julia Goodwin who writes, have you guys watched or heard of Alice in Borderland? It's based on a manga, and it's like Squid Game, but the characters have no choice but to play the games or they die, either in the games or when their life visas are up. It's on Netflix. Chris, this sounds more like something that would be up your alley.
I'm familiar with the game. I don't know. Oh, wait, no, maybe I'm not. Because I was going to say, I think I've played this.
No.
But I'm thinking of something else.
Alice in Borderland, I've skimmed through like never once thought about clicking on it. So if this person likes it, maybe it'll get me to click on it.
I'll be honest,
Yeah.
I've never even heard of it.
It's a very nifty title.
I didn't even
It's
know
a
this was
very cool title.
Yeah,
thing
because
on
it
Netflix.
kind of tells you.
Is it associated with the Borderlands video game series or?
I have no idea, but it felt like when just reading the title, it felt like, oh, this is a fairy tale turned upside down.
All right.
You know.
All right, next up, we got Ryan Burrows who writes, Hey guys, what if the X-Men universe gets pulled into the MCU and it causes deaths or problems that make people in our world hate them, and that's how mutant hatred begins? You could, but then are they saying only mutants from the other world gets pulled in an incursion? Or does like the population get pulled in from the incursion? Remember, at this point in the MCU, the Earth only has half the population. No, I take that back. They fixed it in Endgame. I was about to say, they only have half the population they've used, so there's room for more people. Wait a minute. No, they fixed that. So, I don't know, maybe more people come in and then would they hate everybody? Yeah, I don't. They'll have to come up with a way that, for whatever reason, only mutants from this other world get pulled in. And instead of the entire world of that. So, I don't know. Well, we'll see what they're doing here, Ryan. Okay, next up. James Wheeler sends in a $20 tip. Thank you, James, for supporting us on that level, man. James writes, I'm so excited to see Furiosa Saturday in IMAX and in Sunday on Dolby. Listen, make sure you go to the bathroom before the movie. It's a long movie. It's a long movie. Go to the bathroom before it starts, because I don't think you're going to want to miss any of it.
Yeah.
And there are parts that drag a bit, but the action is so good. It feels like old Hollywood epic filmmaking again. Chris Hemsworth kills it. Anya Taylor-Joy is great as a younger Furiosa. I hope you have a really good time with it, man. Seriously. And thank you so much for supporting us on that level, James. We appreciate that, man. All right, next up. Sholo writes, Man of Steel review alumni here. Nice. Loved your show yesterday. I respectfully disagree with John's $150 million forecast of Deadpool's opening weekend. I think the 2 months we have of this kind of marketing should equal an extra 20 to 30 million. Thoughts? Enjoy the extended weekend. Here's what I would say. I would say the next 2 months of that kind of marketing is why it's going to get to $150 million of an opening weekend. Now listen, is it possible it could make more than that? Absolutely. And I hope it does. But it is fighting. It's got a lot of things going for it. We've already covered the things it's got going for it. We haven't had Deadpool in 6 years. It's Deadpool finally coming to the MCU, which everybody always wanted. Hugh Jackman's coming back as Wolverine. Like, it's got all those things working for it.
Yeah. People want you to lose the bet.
People want me to lose a bet, which we haven't set the parameters for yet, but we'll get there. But it also, let's not forget, it's got some things working against it as well, right? The fact that it's an R-rated film is not going to be a night or day difference, but it's going to keep some people from being able to see it. You know, things like that. So I'm still thinking 150. Ray, what were you?
172.
You were 172. You think it's going to make opening weekend?
I don't know.
Chris, you need to chime in on that. Where do you think Deadpool's going to make opening
185.
weekend?
We're gonna go high.
185.
You're going to go
right.
high.
Yeah.
I hope
think
you guys
Jonathan
are
was
right.
high, too.
I think there's a lot of bad parents out there who are going to take their kids.
I think there are a lot of parents who are
and
going to
I
bring their kids to
salute
it.
you.
point. Good
I'm going to
point.
be there being like, excellent
I
choice.
salute you. So I hope you're right. I hope you're right and it makes that much, but I'm going to stick with what would be a huge win at 150. 150, and that's going to be a huge win for them. All right. Next up, we got Tack, who says, this movie should have been called Garfield's Big Adventure because it gets Garfield, Otis, and John right, but the actual story has so little to do with the tropes and iconography of Garfield. I completely agree. I said that just a bit earlier. I have no clue why they called it the Garfield movie, 5 out of 10. And I would have been okay with it not really being a Garfield movie if it was still fun and enjoyable to me. It was to Ray, wasn't necessarily to me.
I have a heart.
But you have a heart. I agree though. Like it didn't feel like a
Right.
Garfield movie. Despite the fact that Garfield's the main character, it didn't feel like a Garfield movie. It felt like a generic animated little adventure kid film that they just happened to drop Garfield into to make the main character and our protagonist. But whatever. Yeah. Some other people like it, and that's good. All right.
Some other people.
Next up.
What do
By
you
the
mean
way,
by
to
some
be
other
fair,
people?
Anne liked it too.
Yeah.
Yeah, Anne liked
Me
it.
and Ann were smiling.
That's
You were
right.
the only grump head coming out of there.
That's because there was nobody else in there.
Oh,
There was
yeah.
nobody else there. Anyway, Jared Oberfeld writes, the only people I trust having control over Elvis Presley's Graceland estate are Elvis Presley Enterprises, Priscilla, and Riley. I hope that it stays in the family or with Elvis Presley Enterprises. I have no
Oh yeah,
understanding
there
of
must
any
have
of
been
what's
something
going.
on the news or
Yeah,
something.
I have no understanding of any of that. Look, whoever gets it is going to try to profit from it. Just, I mean, yeah. So, I mean, like estates are estates. I'm sure it'll stay with the family unless they choose to sell the rights to the estates off.
So the whole spiel here is a judge delays the Graceland sale, suggesting that Elvis's granddaughter, Riley Keough, could win fraud claims. So they are going over this potential change in ownership.
So they're wanting it to stay in the family. Okay.
That's what it's looking like. I need to do a lot more research on
Yeah,
that.
we'll
But very interesting.
yeah,
Good
we'll
to
have
know.
to read up on that.
All right.
Or they will.
Next up.
I don't read.
Daniel Vasquez writes, since you guys seen the Garfield movie 2024, how would you rank with the director Mark Dindal's other previous works? Cats Don't Dance. I did not see that.
I love Cats Don't Dance.
The Emperor's New Groove. I really enjoyed that. And
Cute.
Chicken Little, which I was not a big fan of Chicken Little.
That's fine.
What is Cats Don't Dance?
Cats Don't Dance is a fabulous movie in which Scott Bakula
What?
plays a cat named Danny who comes
No.
to the big city of Hollywood to break into the industry. But this is a time where cats, other animals, they are all relegated to being background poopy little actors. They're not taken seriously. And there's a horrible Shirley Temple-like actress named Darla Dimple, who is the villain of this film.
Oh my God.
And it has fabulous music and tap dancing, and I love it so much. I watch it once a year with my best friend Megan. It's perfect.
I've never even heard of this.
It's
Garfield's
so
the best.
cute.
Have you ever heard of this? Have you ever heard of this movie already?
No, I
Neither
haven't.
have I. Okay, well, maybe it's with Scott Bakula, Captain of
Scott
the Enterprise.
Bakula as Danny the cat.
All right, it's something I'll have to keep my eyes open
Beautiful.
for. All right, next up, Raymond Verrata writes, I just saw this tweet from the Hollywood Reporter. I was just mentioned this one. Okay, Atlas review. Jennifer Lopez and Simu Liu in another Netflix movie made to half watch while doing the laundry. It's funny because I do look for shows to half watch while I'm doing
Oh, I
something
know.
else.
That's Rebel Moon.
Like NBA, America's Got Talent, or The Voice. Yeah, I have not seen this movie yet, but obviously big fan of Simu Liu, good Canadian kid, and Jennifer Lopez. So I'll see it, but doesn't sound great.
There's gonna be a new Watch Mojo. It's gonna be movies you could do stuff to.
You do stuff.
Like you could get stuff done around the house too.
All right. Next up, Mike Rusetta writes, Happy long weekend, gang. Have you heard any news about Project Hail Mary, a film adaptation from the Martian author Andy Weir, set to star Ryan Gosling and helmed by Lord Miller? Love the book and wondered if you have read it. I've never read it.
I'm on that. I'm still trying to finish Artemis. From what I remember, if it got picked up, I'm very excited for it. But I can't even tell you because I'm gonna mix it up with the two other books that I've read of his. But yeah, I'm excited for it. But you haven't heard of Project Hail Mary?
It's ringing a bell in the back of my
Rob,
head.
I know Rob when someone wrote about it or when we did a story on it. Rob is super excited because he finished the book and he keeps telling me to finish it. I haven't yet because I don't ride the Metrolink anymore. That's
Right.
when I used to read all my books. I finished
When
The
he used to
Martian.
have to come out to Burbank, he'd read it for an hour on the train
I would
every
bring
day.
a book on train. It'd be an hour going there and back, and I finished
Well,
some books in there.
it's definitely something I'm going to keep my eye on, though.
Yeah.
Thanks for that, Brian. Appreciate that. Or Mike. All right, next up. We've got Brian H. who writes, Greetings from Tampa Bay, John and crew. Listening since the pandemic. Thank you. Good to have you here. Just graduated school with a degree in graphic design. Nice. The day before my 42nd birthday
Wow.
last week. Always hyped for May movies. Do you like your birthday month when it comes to movies? I'll be honest with you. I am so oblivious to any movie release dates. I could not tell. Like somebody says, hey, John, what was your favorite 2021 movie? I don't know. I have no idea what came out in 2021 off the top of my head. John, what movies are you most looking forward to in 2026? I have no idea what's coming out in 2026. I could not tell you what movies came out in February. I honestly have no idea. But let me tell
That's
you,
a slow month usually, right? Because we're leaving Christmas.
less lately, but traditionally January, February have been slower months, but not so much lately. So I don't even remember what movies come out. But let me tell you what really excites me about your message, that you just graduated your program at 42.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. I love that. I keep telling people it is not too late to do whatever it is you want to do. Whatever it is you want to do, it ain't too late. I didn't go back to school until I was in my 30s. I mean, I didn't meet Anne until I was in my late 30s. I mean, it's never too late. You're graduating at 42. I remember this one lady in my law program was in there and she was in her mid 50s, going back and pursuing something she was interested in wanting to do. It is never too late to do anything. Good on you, Brian, for that. Congratulations for graduating. And I don't know what movies come out in February. Just to
I got a good month.
Up.
August, in the middle of summer blockbusters. Let's go.
Summer blockbusters don't really come out in
Yeah,
August, though.
but I
Now,
got
they usually
Mutant
come out
Mayhem
in
last
May
year.
and June.
Yeah.
I got Mutant Mayhem last year.
You had a
August
great
1st.
Oh, was that
birthday month.
August?
Exactly on August 1st.
Yeah.
Are you calling Mutant Mayhem a blockbuster?
Yes.
To me.
Listen,
To me.
this back row really likes that
Hey,
movie.
I love that. I loved Mutant Mayhem.
You can't tell me
Not a
how fun it was
It's a
to have
blockbuster in our hearts.
that group of us there.
It was great.
We had the whole front row, Chris, and even my older sister showed up.
We
and
were
she
not in the
doesn't watch
front
those
row.
movies.
We were not in the front row.
Oh, like not the front row,
The
but the
front
one
of the back to
Yeah.
back.
Yeah, the front of
Yes.
the back.
I love that movie.
Yeah, it was great.
But it was not a blockbuster. Let's just be clear about that.
It's
It's not
not
a
a
blockbuster.
I love it.
All right. Let's go on here. Paul Starguy writes, today, 24, is my birthday, 64. Hey, happy birthday. And I went and saw Furiosa, which I liked. I hadn't seen any of the old Mad Max movies before, and I've watched them over the last few days. Each movie to me is better than the last. I'll watch Fury Road on Saturday.
Nice.
I think, you know what? I would, if anybody were to ask me, Paul, and happy birthday again, man.
Yes.
If anybody were to ask me, should I see Fury Road before seeing Furiosa? I would say yes. You don't have to, but I would say yes. That being said, I think there is an advantage to watching Furiosa, and now you get to go watch what happens next.
Sure.
Because one of the things they did in during the credits, they would put up some credits, and then they'd show a quick scene from Fury Road.
Oh, that's
Then show some
fun.
credits, then another quick scene from Fury Road. Then what kind of like to the audience, you remember what happens next. So you are kind of in a unique position like Ray is,
Right.
where now you get to see Furiosa, and now you get to see its sequel
Yeah.
in Fury Road.
The problem I had is that end credit stuff had no impact on me.
Right, because you didn't. You
Right.
didn't see the
But
other
I
stuff.
do love this character for Furiosa. I want to see her more.
All right.
You're gonna love Charlize. She's so good.
She's so good in it. All right, next up. A. Marcellus writes, this one is for Chris.
Oh.
To my fellow 90s millennial, are you hoping for a Spider-Man 98? X-Men 97 teased the hell out of us with that scene in the season finale.
Hey, Marcellus, when I tell you that I lost my goddamn mind when we see Pete and MJ in her yellow sweater, the Peter Parker that I had my first crush on.
That they showed up in X-Men. I
They
still
show
haven't finished
up.
it yet.
So you see Spider-Man a couple times, but then you see those two in their
Oh.
street civilian
They
clothes.
dated them then.
And they're watching the TV, seeing everything that's going down. Ooh, I would love if we got a 98, especially if it takes the same kind of trajectory that 97 did of kind of aging up with its audience, right? It's familiar characters, it's familiar tropes. We still know these stories. It still feels very 90s, but it's matured with all of us as well. And that original Spider-Man cartoon was messed up, you guys. Do you remember the whole saga where we are up to the altar and then we realize that MJ this whole time has just been water? She hasn't even been the real MJ. My tiny mind was blown as a child where I was like, the deception. What?
Deception.
I love the
would it.
cameos in Spider-Man.
Yeah. Oh my
Blade
gosh.
and everybody.
I
was in
don't
that.
think they're going to do a Spider-Man 98.
Why don't
Why are
you
you a
want
dream
me to
killer?
be happy?
I'm just saying, I don't think they're going to do Spider-Man 98. Don't forget, they got that other Spider-Man cartoon they're already doing. The Spider-Man high school years.
Yeah.
Peter
Yeah.
gets his nubby touched for the first time, whatever they're calling that show.
No.
Why don't you want good things for Peter?
I just don't want it to be called a nubby.
Yeah, don't. As long as Aunt May's not around.
With great power comes great responsibility is a bummer phrase if you've got a nubby.
Yeah.
This is true. This is true. All right, next up. Ronetta writes 2 of 2, even though there wasn't a 1 of 2. Hey, Chris. Hey, girl. Have a fabulous holiday weekend, team. You would all be invited to the cookout.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Renetta. Appreciate that. All right, last couple of ones here.
Appreciate you.
A. Marcells writes, this one is for you, Ray. ET2 somehow stuck at the terminal.
Okay.
Someday, Ray is just going to acknowledge Terminal is a bad movie.
What?
Someday. You're going to watch it
I
again?
watch it in reverse, and it's good too.
In reverse.
You just need to watch it with a heart next time.
Watch it with a heart. Don't watch it with your butthole. Watch it with your eyes. All right, next up. Jake Loco writes, Furiosa was such an excellent prequel. It made me immediately go home and watch Fury Road again. Like Rogue One with New Hope did. And Thor, buddy, you got what you effing deserved. Hashtag Peaches. Won't say what that means. Not going to say what that means. But yeah, again,
That means he played that part.
I can't
good.
emphasize it enough. Yeah, when a performer makes you truly hate the bad guy they're playing, it just, like the dude in Guardians of the Galaxy 3 did for you, Ray.
Yeah.
You know they did a good job.
That character can burn in hell.
Never
forever.
bring him back. Never bring him back. Not even like a memory sequence. Nothing.
High Evolutionary, dead to Ray.
Yeah.
dead.
Dunzo. But I mean, Chris Hemsworth as Dementis, so good.
Yeah.
So very good.
But he's somewhat likable, though. Just like,
but
his
that's key because remember
charisma.
George Miller said at
Right.
CinemaCon, he said, you're going to have a leader like where all these people, he's got to have a charisma to him.
Oh, he
right?
has that.
That makes people want to come to him.
Yeah.
So he does such a good job of having that and just somebody you truly hate all at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Hemsworth killed it. Absolutely killed it. All right. CJ writes, to ask Captain America, where is Deadpool? She accepted my $20 and he responded, I don't know who that is, but maybe I'll meet him someday. I don't understand that at all.
I have no idea.
To ask Captain America, where is Deadpool? She accepted my $20 response. I'm sure that's probably an inside something on something else, but I totally don't get what
Yeah.
it is. Anyway,
Chat, help us out.
and that'll do it.
On that note.
On that super, guys, do me a favor. When you're writing in a message, read it over as if you were somebody else to see if it makes any sense. Anyway, that'll do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show podcast. Thank you so much for being here, making this little show part of your day. Big special thank you to all you guys who sent in those questions. Number one, because you gave us fun and interesting things to talk about. But number two, you supported this channel as you did it. And all of us involved with the show, thank you guys so much for your support. Just so you know, normally, guys, we also do questions from our channel members, but when Jonathan's not here to run that, we can't do that. So don't worry, channel member questions will come back on Monday or Tuesday when Jonathan's here.
Blame
a little bit of
Jonathan.
an announcement. There's not going to be a regular John Campea show on Monday. We're giving the staff the day off. I might do something myself, but I'll let you guys know. Anyway, so for the people in the room with me, Ray Ora,
Have a good weekend, everyone.
Chris Carr,
Bye, guys.
my name's John Campea, and until next time, my friends, bye-bye.